The entire HGH conversation became a hilarious one. I mean, that was awesome. I was right in the middle of that. And not right in the middle. My career was right in the middle of that. They were going to start testing for HGH because that was the new thing. Everybody was talking about, oh, everybody's on HGH. Everybody's on HGH. That was back when Barry Bonds' head grew and every, older vets guys were coming back, from surgery in half the amount of time they used to be and then coming back stronger and faster than ever. It's like, holy shit. Then people start talking about this HGH. They're like, it is the actual fountain of youth. Yeah. We have found with the fountain of youth. And I remember in the locker room, the conversation was, as soon as we retire, I'm fucking finding whatever this HGH thing is, and I'm taking all of it.
Yep.
They're like, everything on your body gets bigger. You become smarter, more clear-headed. You see better. Your hand-eye coordination's better than it's ever going to be. And you recover immediately after your workout, so you can just go back into another workout if you want to. It'll keep you lean. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
How is this? Who found this glorious thing? But it was always like this myth that was talked about. And I assume some guys were using it. I assume it was happening. But it became a sticking point in the NFL, between the NFL and the NFLPA for some reason. Because the NFL wanted to start testing for HGH. And this was like 10 years ago, probably 10 years ago, when we didn't know as much about HGH, I don't think. And it was just kind of still something that was like being chatted about as a possibility. Not really like hey, this is actually what people do all the time as adults in the world that have a lot of money. They just take this shit and then they're the 29-year-old versions of themselves when they're like 51 on yachts dancing, having the time of their life.
Bingo.
That guy was awesome.
That's not just one guy. There's thousands of them
right.
because of this HGH, I think. So it was always talked about. The NFL wanted to test for it, and they said the only way you could test for it is if you take blood. So the NFLPA then had to okay and agree to random blood tests happening throughout the entire year, just like there is random piss tests throughout the entire year for performance-enhancing drugs. Then that led to the conversation, well, what's the baseline for every human's growth hormone? So if you take, let's say, James Harrison's blood, are you comparing it to Ty Schmidt's human growth hormone, his natural hormone? How do you know what the baseline's going to be? And they fought on that for like months and months and months and months and months. The testing for the HGH got delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. And then they finally just agreed to start doing the drug test or the blood testing. And I still don't think anybody has ever failed it because I'm not sure they ever put a baseline out there. I think the agreement was, hey, we have to fucking like at least say we're testing for it, even though nobody's ever going to fail it because there's no natural baseline for whatever human has, because some might have more than other humans have. It's like, oh, so HGH is like the best drug of all time. So even if they try to test for it, they can't find it. It's like, holy shit, what is this thing? I think that is really the last hilarious bargain between the NFL and the NFLPA about performance enhancing. It was like, how do we keep HGH out of here? And then they were like, every doctor was like, you can't.
It's impossible.
God, we just got to test for it. Well, how do you know what the baseline was before? Did you test for his HGH whenever he was a child, and then as a teenager, then when he was a late teen, then whenever he was have you done that through his entire life? We don't know. His growth hormone could have just shot up more than anybody else. Oh, so everybody can take it while we're still testing them for it? Yeah, but we can still say we're testing for it, right? Well, you are, kind of.
Yeah,
all right, cool. Yeah, perfect. So that's, I think, the whole PED process is wild because there has to be a baseline. There also has to be rules for engagement because what some people will do. But in there's so many gray areas, and the supplement game is certainly a part of that. Yeah, there is always a ripple effect, and the injuries do become a bit more catastrophic when guys are on stuff. Entire muscles just pop off, and it's like, all right, we have to rebuild an entire thing. I was telling the boys earlier, it wasn't like an open conversation in the locker room. I don't think I wasn't a part of anywhere. Anybody like in the NFL, it is not a cool thing to be somebody that's on PEDs. Like in the NFL, it's not considered a cool thing.
I don't know anybody. I don't know one player. I played 11 years. I never heard anyone even talk about in a serious manner they were taking something. They would joke about, oh yeah, you're juicing, like talking to people. No one ever like sat around. Oh man, I gotta. Like, what would you even say? I can't imagine any locker room where that would happen.
What's that movie? The Program?
Program, yeah.
The Program, I guess, painted an image, obviously, that it's potentially like that. And then I think people saw that the MLB was like that. And then you see the NFL guys are bigger, stronger, faster, and they hit people. I think people assume that it's a little bit like more into the culture and everything. It is, in my experience, it was not. Now, granted, there were people definitely on shit. Like, we assumed people were
assume everybody in the NFL is. I've said this to you before, like, people that watch the NFL, they assume 100% of the players, or maybe, well, they probably think a couple kickers are not on stuff. Like they just assume everybody's doing it.
What's that about?
Well, I wasn't one of them. Go ahead, Connor.
Wasn't it a Packers number 1 overall pick lineman? I feel like that's the only one I can
Tony Mandrick?
Tony Mandrick.
Yeah, that was doing it, but it was completely alone. He was in the bathroom before.
Did he end up a Colt?
practices.
Was he a Colt at some point?
Yeah.
Drafted by.
He played pretty well for the Colts.
Yeah, I think he's been around for the Colts. I've seen him in the locker room, I think, as a Colt, as a member of the Colts.
It's like a 30 for 30. That's the only reason I know anything about it because he
was also on pills.
Yeah,
too.
he was
on everything.
addicted to Oxycontin. And
I think the most recent person, and I assume this guy's a really good guy. I only got a chance to meet him one time. Like Cushing was almost right. Cushing was talked about. As
He had a couple times he had to sit out some games, I think.
Yeah, but now he's a strength coach though.
Yeah, I mean, he's a monster. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's an absolute beast. I've told the story before. The punter that filled in for me the night that I was suspended after my alleged event that led me into that 207 different things, he killed that man. I mean, that dude punted one, and he was jogging down to do a fake cover and Cushing. I mean, a good 50-yard lead up.
You're not allowed to do that anymore, are you?
Nah, punter is not. He's a what's that called? Protected. Mm-hmm. Protect defenseless. The punter. Yeah, I think that was potentially on the punters. Well, it's against the Browns there. But I think he had the same look on the punter that particular evening. That guy was dead. They had to shoot him up at halftime, I believe. He was not necessarily looking forward to get back out onto the field. He had to kick off too. Wasn't a natural kickoff guy. I think he was not necessarily thrilled to be there. And I was sitting at home watching in my living room. I'm like, well, thank fucking God Cushing didn't do that. Thank God. I was very appreciative of that. He was an animal, though. There's not a lot of other guys, though, around the NFL.
No, I mean, back in the day, they used to not. I think early 90s, I talked to a lot of guys that played that were coaching, and they were like, if they had it, I took it. That's what they would tell me. They said they didn't test for it.
Who was that?
Late 80s, I think it was. Different.
I think we
know who that was.
Heard his voice. Rest in peace, by the way.
No. That was not KG. I would have gone full KG voice if I did. A lot of big meatball linemen because they said, hey, all the D linemen are jacked up. They're monsters. Like, I got to do something.
Man, that's a different era now. I think this younger generation's not taking anything. I think they don't want it. I think they're avocado.
They just have too many coaches surrounding them on their outside. They have a chiropractor, my life coach, my mental coach, my brand manager, my assistant. Like that's the biggest problem now, probably.
Yeah, steroids would take out at least 4 or 5 of them. Chiropractor gone.
Yep,
No, thanks.
The psychologist gone.
Don't need him.
Spiritual guy.
Spiritual.
See ya. Don't need him.
I think this is a little bit more healthy, honestly, but there is a lot of voices around people, it seems like.